So Melinda, what do you think? Do we get the show on the road?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us for this hour of hopefully inspiration. Maybe tell you a little backstory. About 4 months ago, we got together. We had just completed a major study on the future of the future of the mall, and we said, you know, we should also take a look at the supermarket, because COVID has driven a lot of different behaviors and dynamics to see what is the future look like, and how shall or should supermarkets modify their business model or their approach to kind of capitalize on these new behaviors. And we put together a group of designers, strategists, and digital designers, graphic designers, retail designers, to share with you what we believe is the future of the supermarket. And that's what this presentation is about. So obviously, COVID has disrupted pretty well every business, either help accelerate, like in the banking industry, help accelerate digital transformation, or generate new behaviors because of access, our ability of access to retail, or the need to engage with retail with a lack of options in the marketplace. And that was really the insight that we're looking at. We had done a study in 2020 on the impact of COVID for retailers, and it really talked to the sense of community and taking care of your employees. And then more recently, we did a study on online shopping and also the future of sustainable packaging. And obviously, components of those two studies were about the retail environment and how do consumers shop in supermarkets. Well, we know that the pandemic has driven new behaviors. Obviously, consumers are more apt to purchase online than they were before the pandemic. It stimulated a lot of growth. I mean, you look at Sobeys with Voila and the success they've had with their program. But what's interesting, and it's really important, that Canadians are not equal to Americans when it comes to home delivery. The reality is, in the US, you can have same day, if not same morning delivery anywhere in the US, from Alaska all the way down to Florida Keys. That's not the same in Canada, where that ability to have access to same day delivery is not there yet. So this need of being able to purchase products and on the fly and have them delivered to your home is still not here in Canada. And that's probably one of the reasons why you see a higher percentage of Canadians shopping online, or shopping in stores versus online. And if you do a deeper breakdown, this is our e-commerce study we did in 2021 for CPG brands. And we can see that women tend to shop a lot more in supermarkets, higher propensity, as I mentioned, Canadians versus Americans. Interesting, lower income consumers and people without children make up the biggest percentage of consumers who shop supermarkets. Putting aside COVID and the success supermarkets have had during the pandemic from the standpoint of building loyalty and engaging with customers and driving sales, there are some significant headwinds that we need to be cognizant of, that our designers took into consideration as we looked at what is the future business model for supermarkets. It's not just about store design. It's not just about digital transformation. It's about what products or what business model will generate the most revenue, because there's a lot of factors. And one of the biggest factors is the center of the store, which represents 80% of a supermarket sale and a significant percentage of their profits, although significantly lower margin from a standpoint of points that they make selling in the center of the store. The reality is the center of the stores is really being challenged by a variety of different businesses. And retailers are really questioning. If we talk to our supermarket clients, they're asking, how do we improve the performance of the center of our store? Do we need to shrink it? What new categories do we need to introduce in the center of the store that drive and that momentum of a sale and that percentage of sale that we've enjoyed? And the reality is, we truly believe, based on our work and what we're going to present to you, that the center of the store is going to shrink dramatically, and it's not going to come back. That there are other categories that are going to replace the ability of retailers to generate those profits. So obviously, if you're like me and you do your shopping, for example, I don't purchase any more paper goods in a supermarket. They're bulky, they take up a lot of room. And during pandemic, a lot of it was out of stock. I have that delivered to my home. And you're going to see more and more of these, what I'll call commoditized categories. And here's an example of P&G and how they've built, and other brands here, like our client Pepsi, have built this subscription model. And you're going to see the growth of subscription models solving a pain point, which is I forgot to pick up that bar of soap when I was at the supermarket, or that box of cereal. It'll be part of the subscription program where those products are delivered to the home, specifically as the cost of delivering the last mile is reduced, cost of operations. A lot of retailers building robotic platforms like Sobeys has done to reduce the labor cost of home delivery. You're going to see more and more of these, what I'll call everyday commoditized items, being sold or purchased through a subscription program. And that's going to create some tension to what is the relevancy of the center of the store for supermarkets. But there's also a variety of other headwinds here. You can see restaurants. The supermarkets have expanded their offerings into meal replacement, and they're competing now with restaurants. So if you're a restaurant on this webinar, you know that supermarkets are eating in on your market share. Consumers are buying more and more, meals to go from the supermarket. There's also obviously fast food and fast casual, e-commerce, which is our subscription economy. There's online grocery like, Gateway Grocer and a variety of other platforms that are online only grocery stores. Walmart's another example. Anything that competes with customers' attention and time is a threat to supermarkets. And obviously meal solutions, healthier solutions. You can even think Weight Watchers is a competitor to supermarkets. Anything where that occasion is being sold through another channel or another platform is a threat to supermarkets. And specifically, as we see more and more consumers migrating to healthy foods. And then obviously we see the waning of customer loyalty. 4 years ago, the average behavior of a consumer shopping is they would do a full shop at their favorite supermarket. Now they do their full shop at their favorite supermarket, but then they do an infill, probably at a convenience store or a smaller supermarket. And then they'll also do their special buys. They'll go to Costco and do their big purchase, or they'll go to Amazon and do their large purchase. So that purchase behavior that was typically one event is now multiple events across multiple channels, which is fragmented the supermarket industry. So I'm going to pause here and ask a poll. What do you feel is the biggest disruption to the current model of the grocery store? Let's take a look at the answers here. There's grocery subscription services, online grocery services, fast food, meal delivery services, meal kit subscription. So I'm just going to let you fill this out for a couple of seconds. So online grocery services is number one with 79 or 80, 82% of the votes. Followed equally is grocery subscription services, fast food, and meal delivery services. You can see that it's not just one threat, it's a variety of threats that are impacting. And the reality is, although consumers are going to the supermarket, 60% of them indicate that that's their primary channel for purchasing their groceries. We can see here in this stat that that consumers feel very confident to buy online. And the reality, if you look at the most recent stats, online sales were growing. They were, I think, at 17.8% total sales. And they've now declined down to 13% as consumers go out and re-engage with built environments. But don't let that fool you. The reality is that online sales will continue to grow, specifically when retailers can figure out how to make a profit doing that. Right now, most online retail sales are unprofitable. They eat away at the margin. But as they solve that last mile solution, and we're going to talk to that, that opens up a large channel for and a level of comfort customers have in buying online. Ooh, where did that go? Sorry about that. Apologize about that. Disappeared there for a second. Can you see the next slide? So customers invest a great deal in time going to the supermarket. Yes, a lot of them don't have a shopping list, but they buy 80% of their products. They buy repeat purchase. These are items that they buy every day. But there's a real opportunity to drive a sense of discovery for customers. So the question really becomes, how do we reprioritize the center of the store? What is the opportunity for grocery? What is that opportunity to re-engage with customers and drive, further growth? And more importantly, how does this impact a revenue model, business model that retailers may want to consider? And that's what we looked at from a design standpoint. We didn't just look at what is the store experience, which is really important, but what is that revenue model that supermarkets can capitalize on? That a lot of them, as we did our audits, a lot of them have started to experiment with. But before we get into those solutions, let's talk a little bit about the consumer. We talked about their online shopping. We looked at the challenges facing supermarkets. Let's talk about the consumer. There's a lot of boredom happening, this idea of a need for discovery. Consumers now, if you look at Gen Zs and millennials, look at what's growing, specialty spices, ethnic foods. These are all things that consumers are looking for that change their meal solutions. Answering that question mom has when she's doing her shopping: what am I going to prepare tonight for my children and my family? And they're tired of the same old, same old. What can I discover that's going to create a sense of excitement at the meal occasion at nighttime or during lunch? Like I said, there's this redundancy of core shopping. There's an opportunity for technology to solve this pain point. Solving these repetitive purchases that are, from a standpoint of experiential, low value. And then, as we look at dual income families, they're all pressed for time. Getting more out of your day is one of the biggest challenges that families face. And this idea of speed and discovery while they shop is really important. It's interesting to note that consumers shop less frequently in the supermarket, but do spend more time. So there's a real opportunity to engage with them. And obviously in our most recent study in sustainable packaging that we just released 2 weeks ago, retailers have a critical role to play, and actually a pivotal role. One of the insights we had in our study is that if retailers provided recycling services and dedicated aisles to recycling products that are easily recyclable, the consumers would prefer that brand, that retailer versus the competitors. And so there's this growing awareness and need to be more sustainable, and also an understanding that retailers play a really important role. So if we looked in the future, we say 2027, it could be 28, it could be 2030, but not in the distance future, not in 10 years, but 5 years. What will the supermarket of the future look like? And let's take a look at that. First of all, we're going to see a lot more robotics happening in the stores. It's actually happening in the restaurant industry. I just came back from a conference with a lot of food service operators who are introducing robotics in the back of the house for cooking. It's labor costs, it's consistency, it's speed of service. It's all of those positive things. I know a lot of retailers like Lowe's have experimented with robots, and Walmart has experimented with robots. They've either pulled them out, but that was just temporary. The reality is robots will solve a lot of the friction points retailers have in keeping inventory in the stores and managing and directing customers to the right aisles. The other thing is that, if you look at technology, we did a big Fizzy Digital study last year in the retail sector, is that, deployment of digital technology for retail, specifically supermarkets, is very siloed. You've got an e-commerce division, which is different than a fulfillment division, which is different than an ERP program, which is different than the POS systems. They're all siloed based on the needs of the departments. And we're going to see those silos collapsing. We're going to see an aggregation of all of these technologies to be more customer-centric. So what are the opportunities? Obviously leveraging digital, eliminating customer friction points and pain points. There's still lots. I mean, we're seeing a big movement of self-payment, touchless technologies, first pioneered by Amazon, and a lot of retailers now. 7-Eleven have just launched an airport kiosk program where it's totally touchless and staffless. See more and more of these. We're also going to see that consumers are looking for experiences and are willing to pay for those experiences. So you're going to see the supermarket as an opportunity for discovery and an experience. I enjoy shopping at the supermarket. It's a sense of discovery. There's always something new I can explore. It's also a learning experience. If what am I going to cook for dinner tonight? What can the retailer, the supermarket help me with to answer that need? How do I keep my meal offerings for my family fresh and innovative? And then obviously, as we've noted in our COVID study, it's really important that supermarkets form part of the large community. The 100-mile commitment to the community, the sourcing, and now with, supply chain disruptions, this sense of being part of the community is going to play a bigger role. So I'm going to pause here with a poll. I'm not going to touch my computer. Question is, what is the biggest issue shifting to an experience-based supermarket? We have proper implementation, too drastic of a change for consumers, renovation budget, too much of a change for operators. A few more minutes. Okay, so too much of a change for operators is the #1 reason, followed by proper implementation, then followed by renovation budgets, and then finally too drastic of a change for consumers. We're always amazed that and whenever we do these vision sessions with retailers, it's always amazing that where the retail thinks the consumer, how far you can push the consumer when it comes to new behaviors and new attitudes, is not the line where the consumer is willing to go. The consumer is actually willing to go much further than a lot of retailers. But obviously, it's important to integrate the entire organization as you do these transformational changes. So we looked at creating a concept that looked at 4 different factors: personalization, sense of community, discovery, and convenience. So we put a handle on this. Let's get on box. Let's really think outside the box, which is kind of emblematic of our logo, the box, thinking outside the box. So we want the retailers to think outside the box. So the store is going to be smaller than your conventional supermarket. It's going to be sustainable. The roof is going to be green. It's going to have the ability of capturing rainwater, but also capturing the sun. Because we're going to need that sense of that level of energy if we're going to provide EV parking, powering stations for the consumers. As we know, the power grids, maybe not so much in Canada, but the power grids in the US, there's going to be an issue with the growth of EV car sales. The power network is not built currently to meet those demands. And so being able to deliver energy, net positive energy within the facility is going to be a really important part of the future of the supermarket, large roofs. But if you look at this design, you can see it's broken into 2 parts, a back of house and a front of house. Retailers today have been reducing their warehouse, back of house, their storage space. And we're actually going to see that flip. And the reason we're going to see that flip is that you're going to see these stores being a retail distribution center for the community. So instead of centralized warehouse delivering the products to the home like Voila is doing now, they're actually going to be distributing these products from individual stores, solving that 1-mile radius issue of same-day delivery. And so you're going to see this change in kind of the mindset of what the footprint looks like and how it's structured. So let's go, and you can see on the rooftop, you're going to have the opportunity here of delivery through drones. And you may laugh, but if you read the most recent announcement by Walmart, they have just expanded their drone test in Arizona. They started with 1 store. Now they're looking at expanding through the entire market. So this is not that far-fetched. This is a reality. Obviously, city zonings will play a key role with the flexibility of doing this, but expect to see more of these in the community in the future. So from a standpoint of exterior, the store is obviously inviting. There's a place for a smart car for EV charging, the use of digital signing to communicate meal solutions. And that is the underlying, when we look at the business model reinvention of the grocery store, it will be anchored in providing unique meal solutions to consumers. Instead of giving the consumer a bunch of items and letting them figure out how to make the meal solution, you're going to see a growing percentage of grocery sales focused on meal solutions, ready to go, hot, cold, and kits. The other part that we're going to see in the future is greenhouse, the ability of a local grown hydroponic garden type produce selling in the stores. And this is happening as we speak. Many retailers now are testing this concept of selling freshly grown produces in their stores, eliminating that distance, the travel to a mile. And you can see vertical merchandising, the ability of growing gardens vertically as this technology has been around for 50 years. It's the ability of capitalizing on those and using robotics to be able to do the pruning and cutting. So, basically airtight, aromatic tight environment where the robots are selecting the freshest produces and the spices and being able to sell that in the produce section, in the fresh section of the store. No doubt, integration of the mobile device. The mobile device, is a computer in your pocket, and you'll see, similar to Uber, you'll see more and more of this integration of the mobile device. I think Loblaws have done a fantastic job of the integration of their loyalty program with their mobile device. You're going to see more and more of this integration, specifically as it integrates between the different types of delivery of items. You're going to buy some products in the store and take it home, and there's going to be some products that are going to be delivered to your house through your either subscription, or you just don't want to be carrying those large bags. As I mentioned, the back of the store is a warehouse, and this is where we have our pickup and a dedicated pickup area, an entry point, so that if you want to order online, you don't have to park in the front of the store. You actually go to this center, and this is where you can pick up your items using your mobile device. You have your code, you just scan the code, they know where your car is, they'll deliver it right to your trunk. And you see more and more of that. You can see it in the hardware industry, where they have the lumber lanes, where the retail is loading up in the customer's truck, the lumber. And you can see more and more of this segregation of kind of factory, warehouse delivery model, and the front end being retail experience model. Now we'll go into great detail, but the store experience is going to be very different. The focus is going to be about discovery. It's going to be about inspiration. It's going to be about helping you solve your meal solution problems. So I'm going to pause here for another poll. The poll is, what is the biggest challenge with moving center of the store items off the floor? Spatial issues, customer convenience, brand pushback. All right, so we have customer convenience is number one, followed by brand pushback, and then spatial issues. One of the pain points that is being solved now, that's going to be common, is the idea of eliminating the checkouts. And your mobile device is your checkout. It's your POS station. It's your reminder of items that you may need to purchase. It will send you reminders as you're going down the aisle. To think about, oh, you purchased this item a month ago, you may want to think of fulfilling it. And also, if you look, these are unboxed. These are boxes that the consumer can purchase, and they have built-in scanners, so that as you put the product in, it's registering on your mobile device what you're purchasing. And this eliminates the use of plastic bags, the ability of carrying these boxes to your car. And in our study, we looked at, would consumers be willing to pay for this? This was a study we did on sustainable packaging. And the reality is yes. Obviously, it's new, it's novel. So there's going to have to be an adoption rate and changing consumers' behavior. But it's an opportunity to move away from plastic. Now, obviously, as I talk about, with the ability of, with 5G, the ability of geofencing offers as you shop the store is going to be prevalent. Starbucks pioneered this approach, as you call it, walking in front of a Starbucks and getting an offer. You'll see more and more of this. Obviously, it's going to be an opt-in, and it'll be tied to the retailer's loyalty program, but it's just another way of helping the customer eliminate their anxiety points of things that they forgot. I don't know about you, but often I'll come home and my wife will ask me, did you buy that? And I go, oh, I forgot. Hence back to the supermarket to buy those items that I've forgotten. The other thing that we need to also take into consideration is there's going to be a great shift in a new channel, which is the smart glasses. And it's much closer than we think. With Apple in the fall, will probably be announcing their launch of smart glasses. Google's already there. And there's a lot of attention given to this, where you can leverage promotional offers or find the product you're looking for, which is one of the pain points. We're letting you know that the item that you typically buy is out of stock. These are all elements that smart glasses can help solve. Obviously, the center of the store is all about discovery. Digital signage that talks about the meal solutions that you can order and have delivered to your home, or order and bring it as part of your grocery shopping. And what this is a central place where all of these different meal solutions, from desserts to lunch, breakfast, are being on display. And you can order here and have it packaged in an area on the far wall. There's also an area for sampling, and maybe a local cheese manufacturer or maybe a local producer of honey can come and do a display here, and tying to that community, sense of community, allowing local farmers the ability of selling their goods as part of the supermarket. And then we looked at, and at the core was, what is this business model reinvention? What are we going to do to change and drive more revenue? It's all about the meal kits and the meal solutions. And it's about being chef inspired. It's about creating a sense of excitement and letting the consumer, risk-free, experimenting with new food ideas, specifically if we see a growth in the future of ethnicity foods, which are much more complicated to cook and prepare. But having these meal solutions and meal kits is a great way of solving a lot of the customers' pain points and building loyalty. And so as consumers identify what they want and they've ordered, there's a code, takes you to the boxes that are either refrigerated or shelf stable. And the digital signage talks a lot about what is in those categories, allows you to tell a story about the ingredients or how to prepare it, and create some excitement, And you can say, well, these stores have a lot of digital. The cost of digital technology is coming down dramatically. Our work with MRI, which is the leading technology company when it comes to digital screens, immersive digital screens, I've shown that the quality is going up and the price is coming down. So execution would have been $1 million worth of digital signage. Those executions are coming down dramatically. You can see here, there's an area for customers to also sit down and enjoy the meals. So it doesn't have to be just for home delivery or home consumption. It can actually also be a place that you can enjoy, socialize, create an environment where you feel relaxed. At the back of the store is this part of the essential discovery. This is where we talk about seasonal changes. If it's barbecue season, it's all grouped around the barbecue. Think of, if it's Halloween, what this would look like. If it's Christmas, what this would look like, or the holiday season. It's an area where a lot of these products come together. So you've got meal solutions that solve the day-to-day challenges of what am I going to prepare for my family tonight? And then you have these event-driven programs where a craft or a CPG brand can come and create an event on the range of products that they offer tied to a seasonal activity. Then around the perimeter edges where we have a little bit more of the conventional shopping, but you can see here, if one thing you notice is the center of the store is gone, we've pared down to the core elements. So if you're a consumer packaged good brand, if you're the number one in the category, the odds are you'll be in this store. But if you're number three, the odds are you're not going to make the shelf. So retailers are going to curate the offerings of their brand. And obviously, again, back to the mobile device, you'll be able to find the items you're looking for through the mobile device. And it'll, again, send you a reminder, and they'll actually tell you how many points you can accumulate. So I'm going to pause it here for another poll. What is the biggest challenge with shifting to an AI-focused shopping experience? Keeping customers in the store, accurate personalization, the human element, keeping up with store layout changes in-app. What do you think the biggest challenge? Okay. All right, so the human element is number one, followed by keeping up with the store layout changes, accurate personalization, and finally keeping customers in the store. So here's the fresh area. A lot of these items will have been grown in the greenhouse. Walmart just announced their new store concept will actually have a rooftop garden for the entire size of the roof, allowing them to grow their produce not only for that store, but for surrounding stores. So more of this locally produced in-store activity. You'll see more and more of this. And again, the opportunity of unboxing a collective of items. Maybe it's salads, or maybe it's a fruit box. The ability of consolidating these needs customers have into one offering or multiple of offerings. And then robotics are going to play a key role in manufacturing. Here's the bakery. We have a robot here that is manufacturing bread. Think of Krispy Kreme, the smell of freshly baked bread in the store at given times, sense of theater. And behind you can see a cake decorating computer, a robot allowing you to decorate cakes. And it's part of that sense of discovery and entertainment. Then here we have the deli. And again, we have robots being able to slice and curate and deliver to customers. The deli department, you would punch on the keypad of the display what you're looking for and the quantity you're looking for. And then, or you can talk to the robot and they will tell you, it will ask you the questions and will get what you're looking for. It's similar to what you would have with the staff. The other area that we see significant growth is in the bulk area. One of the questions we asked in our sustainability study is, how predisposed are you in purchasing bulk? And it was startling that more than 50% of consumers, and it goes as high as 75%, are open to purchasing bulk. Obviously, food safety is and convenience are two factors that retailers are going to have to overcome. But with the use of technology and smart engineering, those are easily solved. And the opportunity here is to eliminate secondary packaging. Excuse me. And here's a new section, which is really plant-based meats, protein. We see this as being a growing section of the store. We see this as being a growing section of consumer behavior. It's in its infancy. Probably this part of the store experience is going to be the longest to come, but it will be here. It is much more sustainable. As they improve the quality of the product, it'll be hard to discern between plant-based proteins and livestock proteins. And obviously, digital signage will play a really important role at creating that experience and creating some excitement. There's been a lot of discussion now as we leave the store of the future. What about the metaverse? And there's been a lot written. We wrote a few blogs on the metaverse and impact it will have on brands. But the metaverse is really a different experience. It's a different channel, if you want, a marketing channel, much more than a retail channel, although it will converge. But the reality is the metaverse has been here. I mean, we used virtual reality 20 years ago to test concepts. 5 years ago, we used it to test banking concept in China. What was lagging in the adoption rate of virtual worlds was the headset. And as you see, more and more headsets are being manufactured that are lighter, higher resolution, more virtual. And as these technologies become affordable and accessible, you're going to see the metaverse really taking off. But view it as a channel to create awareness of your brand, create engagement. But how people would shop in the metaverse is going to be very different than how they would shop in a physical store. Walmart tested a metaverse concept 5 years ago, and it failed because consumers who are going to enter the metaverse don't want to have the same experience that they would have in a supermarket. If they want that experience in a supermarket, they'll go in a built environment and have that experience. They're expecting the metaverse as a platform for discovery, for courses, for learning how to cook new, getting recipe ideas from other, colleagues that are part of the metaverse. It's much more of a sense of discovery. They're looking at purchasing this wine, and there's a whole story, and you can actually go to the wine region where that wine was grown and creating a richer storytelling experience for brands. That's where we see the metaverse playing a pivotal role. Again, as I said, we'll need to differentiate between what the metaverse is about, which is a sense of escape, and what the supermarket experience is all about speed and convenience. And obviously the metaverse has some benefits from a standpoint of personalization. You don't have to, you're already opted in, you're identified yourself as an avatar. There's a lot of ability to customize by brands to those various stakeholders, but we're in its infancy. Now, obviously NTFs are really the next evolution, but we view this again as an opportunity to complement physical products. We see this playing a really important role in the rewards program. So think Loblaws or Sobeys reward program, where you can actually get virtual, not unique funds tokens. And that's it. I just want to stop sharing and love to open this up to any questions you may have.
JP, maybe we can start with a question that Paul had early on, and I mentioned that we would get to this, and he is asking, will grocers still use sales for the measure of their success? And I mentioned the ROX study, so maybe you could start with that one.
That's a great question. Thank you for asking. ROI will always be kind of the foundation of the house, but it won't be the only metric. The reality is consumers are looking for experiences and employees, which are in short demand, and who a lot of organizations now have refocused the importance of the employee as part of the customer experience and engaging them. So you're going to see a lot of new metrics, ROX, return on experience metrics, like customer retention, employee satisfaction. And you're also going to see in these metrics the use of sentiment. There's a company called Immersive, which have launched a platform using your smartwatch where you opt in, and it will track your sentiment. And we know that sentiment is at the core and the true indicator of behavior for consumers. So you're going to see the growth of these types of metrics to really get to the core of what drives loyalty for brands. Because the loyalty for brands is not selling products. The loyalty for brands is creating experiences and solving the customer's pain points. Hope I answered that question. But take a look at our study. Although it was for banking, we'll be doing the same study in the fall for the retail industry.
We also got another question from Glenn. Do you think customers will adjust to a non-human experience?
They're already on that journey. We call it the trust ladder. It's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to be talking to a robot the next time you shop, or in the next foreseeable future. It'll start with maybe your vacuum cleaner is a robot. It'll start with, you engaging at an ATM with a virtual assistant, or maybe it's a chatbot on your website, because they're all robots. The chatbot on your website, on the website that's answering your questions. It will start gradually in building your trust and your comfort. Think of self-check-in kiosks at airports. Had the bank industry never invented the ATM, had they never launched ATMs, I doubt very much that the check-in kiosk at airports would be a success. But the bank industry have trained us to use these technologies to engage and get something out of it without interaction or assistance from a human being. And you're going to see these technologies, specifically voice-enabled technologies, kind of allowing us to bridge that gap between physical, the real world and the robotic world.
We had another question from Paul about the superstore, like the big Walmart and Meijer, and whether they will go for a smaller format or what we think the future of that will look like.
They already have, the future is going to be smaller, tied into your neighborhood. In my neighborhood, I can walk to my local Loblaws or my Metro. I can go to Shoppers or Rexall, liquor store, and about 50 restaurants, all in 50-minute walking distance. And that's what consumers want. They want to be part of a community where they have access without having to drive. That means tighter communities, denser communities, and that means smaller stores that are more accessible. I hate shopping in a large superstore where it takes hours to go through departments. I want to be able to shop quickly, get in, have a sense of discovery, and leave. I don't want to have to park my car in a parking lot with 500 cars. I want to be able to get in if I'm going to drive and get out quickly. And so we see the future being much smaller stores. And I think if you start looking at what's being built now and where people are putting their focus, they are looking at smaller footprints. Does that mean that the superstore is going away? No, there's always a purpose for the superstore. There, as I talked about those 3 shopping trips, superstores will be that kind of specialty purchase visit where they're going to do, their mega buy. They're going to be buying all of their toiletries and their paper products. So there's a place for that, but there'll be fewer of them.
If you have a question, please type it in the chat.
How far are we from what we presented? The reality is, my favorite quote is, the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. The reality is a lot of what we're presenting to you is already being done. I look at the vertical gardens. Sobeys has been testing that in their newest store concept. And that was an inspiration from a store they have in Quebec that had been doing it, rooftop garden, for the last 5 years or 6 years. That's where Walmart is testing that same concept, and actually not testing it, they're actually doing it in some of their newer stores. Drone delivery, it's happening now. It's being tested by Walmart in some of their markets, specifically, I think, Arizona. When you look at robotics in the store, you look at Lowe's, I think Home Depot have leveraged robotic greeters. We've been using and designing robots in China for the last 15 years as greeters in the banking industry. And so a lot of these technologies are already being used. It's just that they've never been consolidated. And I think for us, the big shift is moving to a different business model. All these other elements are supportive, but the idea here is that for the supermarket of the future to succeed, they need to move from selling items to selling solutions. Sounds familiar? The banking industry is going through the same challenge. You look at the hardware industry, they're going through the same challenge. They're going to start moving from selling items, which the consumer can still buy, to selling solutions.
Another question in the chat. Does the auto price calculate option that Amazon uses impact sales, versus, when you're in the grocery store, you might not be calculating on the spot?
Prices, whenever I don't have statistics, so that I can't answer that definitively, but I can answer it from a consumer behavior standpoint and research we've done on price. Price is still the number one issue, and comparing prices still remains an important part of the purchase decision process for a segment of the consumer. And I would say with the potential of a recession, the inflation happening in the marketplace, consumers now are a lot more concerned and much more aware of pricing. So I would say, yeah, I think it's the right strategy. And I think it's going to be ubiquitous. I think all retailers are going to have to play in doing that.
Okay, last call for questions.
Well, you guys have been real troopers. I really appreciate you giving up, an hour of your time right after lunch. I hope you saw value. We recorded this. We're going to post it on our website. Obviously, there's another 50 slides that we have on how, on the statistics and the information that built this model, that we'll be able to share those on our website. We didn't want to bore you with all the stats because there's quite a few of them. So I think, Melinda, when do you think we'll have that out?
We will actually send to everybody who attended the webinar. We will send it to them after the call. It won't be up on the website till next week, so they'll have an advance opportunity to take a look at it.
Great. Thank you very much. If you have any questions or you want to have further discussion about how to approach this, I hope we're here, and I hope we've demonstrated how we approach our thinking, our processes, and how do we look at capitalizing on a more customer-centric experience. So thank you very much for your time. Have a great day.